Start the
Uh,
recording. How did that 61850 suggestion fly with your meeting around smart grid?
well, funny you mentioned that. I got sidetracked on this ASHRAE smart grid stuff, as you can see. And I'm grateful for you inspiring me. I got to make some physical notes here. Um, um, so I had just enough to sort of, how do I say, to know what's going on, but nothing to really contribute meaningfully to it. And when you start to see what's happened since within the past 2 weeks, you might see what I'm talking about. Um, do you want to, oh, first we'll get to that in a second because I think I posted it. So this came in just today. Actually, it came in last Friday. So NEMA has collaborated with ASHRAE. ASHRAE has the most ferocious standards development platform in the land. And so one would not think that the heating and air conditioning people would be involved in bike racks and flower beds and smart grid, but the fact is they are. And I understand why NEMO might want to use their process. So we have now we have what do we have? It's a 60-day period, and we've got it's 1,000-page document laying out the the state smart grid information model. So we've actually been watching this for a long time, but and I did make some comments, and they did accept comments, as you can see here, a couple of years ago. But now we've got until October 6th to make some meaningful statements on it. It's a big document, and because big documents are what they are, very often that limits who can comment upon them. So that's what came in. ISNA came in. They wanted, what do they want to do here? They want to do illuminating nomenclature. Okay. So we actually were watching the international standards develop on this one because I might have mentioned this to you in Calgary that the European Union, Germany in particular, is trying to service this market, so to say. And so they're developing some of the technical, some of the vocabulary for the International Lights and Lighting Standard. It's only important to the degree to which, and I don't know if you had this in the Canadian Electrical Code, but on the NEC, rounding up and rounding down was a big deal, particularly in overcurrent protection situations. But when we got involved in clearances between switchgear and walls, for example, grounded surfaces, rounding up and rounding down was a big deal. Now, I'm not saying that rounding up and rounding down is necessarily a problem here, but we are dealing with 50 and 60 hertz power systems. So I felt that we should at least know about this happening. And I did say, I did meet over the past 2 weeks with Steve Townsend, and we're trying to develop lighting wiring concepts because so many other organizations, ASHRAE and who else? ISNA and other non-electrical type of organizations are developing the concepts for illumination, and all that's left for electrical engineers is to wire them up. So we feel that we can contribute meaningfully to how you might want to wire things up as far as outdoor lighting goes. Question: do you own your outdoor lighting up there up in Calgary, Lauren?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We own, operate, and maintain the outdoor lighting, and actually, it's kind of interesting that you mentioned it. I mean, I've been only not, I haven't been hugely involved in outdoor lighting myself personally, but I've heard a fair bit around the edges, and what I keep hearing is that there's everybody and their dog has an outdoor lighting package, but they're very distinct differences. One of them seems to be maintainability. You can get a very elegant and beautiful fixture, but you can't get into the thing to maintain it if you need to. The wiring is inaccessible, or just your port to get into it's the size of a pinky finger or something to that effect, right?
That for
So it becomes a
LED
throwaway
lights?
item, and
Is
sometimes
that
those throwaway items are pretty expensive.
so? Is that for LED lights as well as traditional lights, or is it both?
So far, the conversations have typically been around HID. type lighting. LED is certainly we're moving in that direction. We've got some LEDs on campus now, but we've established a standard for outdoor lighting, and most of the stakeholders have accepted our standard. There was one or two groups in the past that basically branched out on their own, and we basically said, well, we're not maintaining something that we weren't a part of.
Well, that's we do a lot of that going on here also. I didn't know. So you're saying other departments or other departments that might be hiring their own architect engineer, and that architect engineer wants to specify their own fixture to match the architectural statement of the building.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a fight just about every building, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we won that one. We do have a quote standard, we're in the standards business, lighting fixture, and it's standard until somebody comes along and does something different. But certainly maintainability it's always been. I mean, we've even have metrics for that, right? Don't we have when we do our calculations, it strikes me that we have a maintenance factor we throw in there. I never knew.
Yeah, but a maintenance factor versus actually getting somebody's physically getting their hand in there and changing out a control board is two different things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I just wonder if there's a standards in a sort of technical standard solution here. It may well be that just manufacturers may listen to this and make certain claims, and we give them a platform for saying, campus lighting systems need a more efficacious approach to maintainability. And because we have 10,000, and I'm sure you have at least 1,000 up there, that it's non-trivial. We end up having nearly as many light fixtures as the city itself.
Yeah, I have to check, but I'm pretty sure we're at least 5,000. We could be approaching 10,000 ourselves.
Yeah, so it's not a small enterprise within a university.
No, yeah. No, that's for sure.
Okay, so that's why we felt that was important. Of course, we have until there's two deadlines. The paper deadline, the old traditional deadline, is when is it? I think it's the end of next week, and then we have 1 month after that. So we did a review of Article 620, by the way. If others want to see that, 620, we went through. It was the elevator specifics, and I think if you come here, you can listen to Dave and I go through it line by line. Those of my colleagues who have an interest in looking at it line by line might be interested. So we went on for 20 minutes. There are no bold strokes there. There's too much that can be done in the A17 standard itself. So we felt we picked our battles, and we're not going to get too much into that. Let's see. So here we go. This is one you want to talk a little bit about this one? This was your. Go for it.
Energy Management System Application, IEC. Oh no, I was thinking of IEC 61850.
Oh, 61850. Let's pull that one up here. Let me finish with this one, and then we'll get back on that one. Because there's no follow-up on it. So what this is all about is, okay, I recall this. I should, since I wrote the darn thing. It had to do with interoperability, which is the larger concern. I know everybody wants interoperability for their standards platform. Everybody wants everybody else to match theirs and interoperable with theirs. So you deal with all that stuff. So because so many of our larger universities, yours included, have these district energy systems, and the culture of district energy tends to be run by mechanical engineers, I thought occasionally they might want to consult an electrical engineer on smart grid. I know that the District Energy Association and ASHRAE, and I wouldn't be surprised if the American Acoustical Society and the American Society of Biological Engineers might want to claim some part of smart grid. Seems to me it's big enough for everybody. But as I make the point, we only have spent about $30 billion in a $300 billion industry in the United States. If I'm going to try to get some value out of that $300 billion, it might well be that I don't go after my utility bill. It might well be that I go after my labor standards across the skilled trades. That's where I think I've got a 20% gain in better way of spending the money. But what happens is that you get these marquee issues like smart grid, and all the C-suite and all the presidents and all these branding agencies like sustainability and lead, and it's a climate change commitment. And that's really all they are. We have to remember that these are not government agencies, despite the U.S. Green Building Council, despite the seal of approval and the word United States. This is not a United States agency. This is a branding organization. Same thing with the president's climate change, president's climate commitment. Okay. Climate change. We promised to change the climate. That was a joke. Okay, so here we are once again. A branding agency rolls in and has nice websites and lots of conferences and stuff. All I want to ask is, what are your specific ideas? What did I do in all this metering you're making me put in to change behavior? You know, kind of difficult questions like that. That's what we're trying to get at, and by calling and at least identifying them, and everybody wants to get in on this, and I'm just not convinced, and I'm not alone in this. There are some people in our committee in IES that are a little bit skeptical, but they want to play along. It's we are working for universities. We're entitled to perhaps take conceptual flights of fancy. That's kind of what we do. That's the process of coming up with new knowledge. On the other hand, the business side says, I'm not really sure if this is the way I should be spending my money. But my boss wants to be part of the president's climate commitment, and we want to look good through the Green Building Council, so we're going to do this stuff. So other countries don't have these branding agencies. So I thought it's interesting, at least that I know of. It may well be that, the Green Building Council and the plan, those packaging organizations that do conferences and zeitgeists, and they are, I'm not sure how prevalent they are. I probably shouldn't speak too much out of turn. I suppose the marketing impulse is strong in many organizations. What is your gut reaction to smart grid, microgrid, nanogrid, Internet of Everything, Lauren? What?
Well, maybe just before we get into that, I wouldn't mind touching on what you're talking about with leads and whatnot. We have lead up here in Canada as well, and then green globes. I'm not sure if you guys have green globes, but and again, I've only been cursorily involved, but my perception of it is unfortunately, it seems to be a lot of PR and a lot of paperwork and a lot of administravia. But I'm not convinced that it actually does reduce the carbon footprint of a project. I think there's some benefit in that regard, but it seems like it's very much focused on mechanical systems and not so much on electrical and not so much on efficiency, but more on other issues like putting in bike racks and outside greenery and those types of things. And I think that for truly sustainability, I think that we can do better overall.
Well, funny you mention that, because somebody was giving me a hard time about a blog post I actually made today about ASHRAE. And let's see, do I have it right here? Yeah, this is the one we were talking about. What did we say here? Let's see, we have seen something similar happen when the Society of Heating and Refrigeration Engineers undertook advocacy for bicycle racks and flower beds. You would not think that. So this is, because there's a lot of money to be made in branding and in conferences and accreditation and publications and all that other, the atmospherics around it. Those of us who, don't have the travel budget to just go from conference to conference with the same old PowerPoint, are a little bit skeptical. Lauren, you used a wonderful word, administravia. It sounds to me just like a lot of paperwork and bloviating. That's what it sounds. I want to try to spell that word correct. Did I get that right?
I don't think it's a proper English word. Administrivia.
Admina. I love it. Administrivia. I love it. Okay, that's today's word. Okay. All right, we are recording here, so I hope our colleagues don't get too bored with this. Okay. And let's see what else was on this agenda here, if I can get back to it.
I'm trying to remember. A few years ago, the industry came out with smart motor control centers, and your motor control center could tell you just about anything that you wanted to know, right? And we haven't, as the U of A anyway, bought into that. And a part of the reason is it, and I'm a little afraid of this with the Internet of Everything and smart grid and whatnot, that you just get information overload and you get a ton of information that nobody's looking at, nobody's using, and therefore it becomes unnecessary, or just throwing money at getting data that nobody is looking at.
Yeah,
And I feel like smart grid is pushing towards just more data, but for the sake of what? You know, what is the practical application use of that data, and are we actually going to develop the resourcing and manpower to look at that data, analyze the data, make something useful out of the data, utilize the data? If we're pushing towards more automation in the grid and automatic restoration and the smarts behind that, that makes perfect sense to me, and that's an aspect of smart grid that I do agree with.
hmm,
But just getting data for the sake of getting data when you're not committed to analyzing it, getting useful output from it, and actually practically utilizing it, I'm just a little concerned that we're just going to end up throwing money at getting data for the sake of data.
yeah, and does it change data? We were running into this way back during the submeter, and I think we're on the falling edge of the submetering craze, but I don't think those submeters ever paid for themselves.
Yeah.
It was a kind of an employment act for, yeah. Even I can be
Okay.
discreet. Okay, let's get to before we run out of, before my guy gives me a hard time here. You want to cut to the chase on this one, the substation standard. I'll refresh my memory where we were on this one.
So we talked a little bit last time. You had a meeting coming up around smart grid, and I can't remember who you were meeting with specifically, but you'd mentioned that they were looking to find a communications protocol to standardize on, or that was already a standard to opt into for smart grid, and I think it was specific around metering applications. And I suggested that using IEC 61850 would probably be a very good standard for that. IEC 61850 has been around for, I'm sure, at least a decade, if
Hmm.
not longer. I'd have to look up the history, but I mean, it was developed because different utilities wanted to have different IED or different protective relay manufacturers that were able to talk to each other. And I mean, of course, protective relays not only do currents and voltages and protective signal communications, but also do have metering inherent inside of them in terms of kilowatts, kilovars, kVA, et cetera, kilowatt hours even. I know, I mean, typically your protection IED is not being utilized for revenue metering functions. But that being said, it's already a standard that's developed, that's widely used throughout the utility industry in any event. And I don't see any reason why it couldn't be expanded to be utilized for metering applications. And I think it would be a very good standard for that, because my perception of metering right now is it's very proprietary. It's very hard to get any kind of one vendor to talk to another vendor, and that was the whole driving force behind creating this standard for protective relays.
Well, getting an existing standard modified, one that's already been through the process and generally received market endorsement, should always be a first choice before any standards development organization approaches a body like IEC or ANSI or other national bodies. I think you're accurate to say that the manufacturer, in the process of innovation and for market advantage, um, they're 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 promoting their own standard to recover their own innovation costs. That's generally the economic motivation for it. Now, how do we as an industry, we can put that possibility out there, and you're more sensitive to the IE standards than I'm frankly allowed to be. So I'm very grateful that you brought this to our attention. But one of the canons of the standards development system is what do you already have blocked out? What is already there? Can you build on something, on an existing standard, a chapter, a paragraph, a line, and possibly we could put this out there. And I would like to follow up on this. I don't know. Do you have to put all your ideas through CSA group though, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, CSA really. I mean, there's a CSA label on the protective relays that we buy, but that's more from the manufacturing side of things. The CS is more about, is it manufactured in such a way that it's conducive to public safety. I mean, CSA is like NEC in that sense that its basic concept is public safety.
Okay. Well, let's, in the interest of time, let me do this. Let's get a hold of the project leader. Is it TC 57? Let's get a hold of the project leader over at the IEC and get him on the horn. Uh, um, IEC 61850. Let's get to their link and see who that person is. It has to be part of a technical committee, though. Let me not record me hunting around this web search on. Let me get that later. I'll get a hold of the guy. They're usually pretty good about getting in touch with. Just people know Gabriella at the IEC. I'm going to send you an email. I'm not able to come on Monday. Obviously, I'm still in the United States, and I'll explain why. It just had to do with family. My girl's getting into college, and so that's my story. So I know that sometimes they listen to these. I was supposed to be. I have a meeting with them this coming Monday in Geneva. I'm not there, obviously. But I'll bring this up to them, and I will probably be there in November. There's a big meeting in Geneva with the IEC in November 2nd and 3rd. So, okay, so that's on my do list. Let's kind of, if we can, if we want to do a breakout on, in fact, we'll probably do a breakout on that one. Where's our rest of our agenda? And let's see other stuff that came in over the transom just in 2 weeks. So we had that, we had that, we had that, we had that. What else did we have? We had, okay, all right. So I'm going to apply to this, I'll be asked IEEE. I need $6,000 to get this, $6,000 to finish this study. And this is the one where we set up to go around and measure commercial building transformer loading. And if it's what we suspect it is, we can probably take another 20 to 35% out of our building level transformers, or at least establish rules that put demand swings in the forced air rating. Okay. Nika and the guys from the joint apprenticeship came here to Ann Arbor. They come here every year, so for the past 5 years. So they have a couple thousand electricians in here getting trained. So they train them all here at the University of Michigan. So they were in town. I wanted to make sure they knew. This is one of the co-sponsors for the group, so I let them know that we're thinking about them. So I don't think. Okay, so here's where we get into a different crowd in our industry, the guys that are managing the futures contracts for energy. I don't deal with these people all the time. We farm out this expertise, but I thought, our colleagues might like to know that the bulk power purchasing, how you actually count your energy savings, is being determined by practices recommended by the Financial Accounting Standards Board. So if you're buying electricity in bulk and you want to make certain claims about smart purchasing, so to say, the standard leading practice or uniform approach to that is developed by this organization, and I'm trying to think when the deadline is. I didn't put a deadline on this one. Okay, well, I'll move on that from this. So I have to tell anybody from FASB, it's rare that I see the transparency. They may not be an ANSI standards developer, but I will tell you that they're about as transparent as you get. So I guess kudos to the Financial Accounting Standards Board. And I think smart energy. This is where we started before. So I think this is our last meeting was in July. So anyway, all right, that's the end point. And that's what an agenda looked like. Let's see, what else did we, what else? I think that's kind of it. And that's kind of all I have time for. Is there anything we want to, I'm trying to find our page again. Sorry about this, but I get lost in all my windows here. So what other stuff did we have? We dealt with a little bit of campus outdoor lighting. DOE wants to do more, blah, 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 blah. Uh, Giuseppe's busy, hasn't talked about this, but for me, it's still on the table. We talked about we'll have a public review of this here on August 21st and September 25th, and or before these deadlines, and I'll put this recording up on the web here within probably before the end of the day. So we did have some interesting discussions this morning with Bob and on reliability, and also with Nahad on topics involving the new special purpose ground fault protection. So apart from trying to talk somebody into helping me with WordPress, and apart from trying to get people to send me links whenever you feel so moved, uh, or you have a student. I'm actually going to be hiring a couple of students that will help us a little bit here. But it's just a big area. It's growing a bit, but certainly if you want to send me your outdoor lighting standards, that would be kind of fun, and we could add them to this. So that's all I have to say today, Lauren. Anything to add or correct? Or,
I think that'll cover it for today.
yeah. Okay. Good. I'll see you on the Worldwide Inner Tubes in a couple weeks.
Good.
Yep. Bye bye.